So welcome if you just joined us. My name's Danayutta, and we're broadcasting live from the London Buddhist Centre. So thank you very much for joining us. This will last about an hour, so we'll finish just past 8 o'clock. And in this class, we'll be doing some meditation, and I thought I'd just do a little bit of meditation teaching as well. Yeah, so it's just really, really lovely to have all of you here with us. Although I can't sort of physically see you, I can definitely imagine you, imagining you sitting in front of your phone or in front of your laptop, tuning into this little meditation class. And I thought I'd start off with a little anecdote, a little story from my life. And it's a story that in my mind I'm calling Smoothie Gate. So, like a lot of people here in London, I've been working from home for the last week and a half. And that's quite an unusual thing for me because I actually work here at the London Buddhist Centre, and a lot of my work is yoga teaching. So I tend not to do that from home. I tend to do that from here at the London Buddhist Centre. But since London has gone into sort of lockdown, where we're not able to leave our homes very much, and we've all been encouraged to work from home, I've been working from home. And last week, one of the things that happened was I had to get up to speed with Zoom. So I don't know if this is an experience that's shared. I don't know if other people have been trying to get to grips with technology, doing their meetings over the internet or online. But I've never used Zoom before very much until last week. And the first time I was on a Zoom call, I set myself up really well in my lounge. I had my laptop, everything was at the right height. The technology all seemed to be working. And then what happened was the person who I live with came back from their daily exercise run through the park. And whilst I was on my conference call, they started making a smoothie. So at this point, the smoothie machine hasn't gone, but I could sort of hear them rustling around in the kitchen. And I live in a flat with an open plan kitchen come living room area. So they're sort of at the edge of my peripheral vision. I could sort of hear them and sort of see them starting to make this smoothie. And I was getting quite distracted. I was getting quite distracted and a little bit agitated on this conference call. I mean, what happened in the end was he then took the smoothie machine and went into another room. I think he went into the bedroom and shut the door and made the smoothie in the bedroom. And there was quite a loud noise, but it probably didn't sort of translate onto the conference call. And so that's not the end of the story. What then happened was at the end of the conference call, one of my colleagues quickly phoned me and he said, "Oh, Danayutta, I'm really sorry. Did I talk too much? Did I offend you? You didn't look that happy. Was it something I said?" And then I realized that my colleague had just looked at my face, watched my face, probably watched me getting quite distracted and quite agitated, and thought that I was annoyed with him. And I just had to say, "No, I'm really sorry. The person I was living with was making a smoothie, and I was just really distracted and really frustrated." Anyway, so I'll just leave that story aside. But it got me thinking. It mainly got me thinking about my response to the new situation that I find myself in, the sort of constantly shifting situation. And I found myself reflecting on a line from the Dhammapada, which is, well, I'll just say it in Pali because I love it the way it sounds in Pali. In Pali, it's Kanti Paramam Tapo Titika, and it means patience is the greatest of virtues. Patience is the greatest of austerities. And this is my favorite translation. Patience is the most rigorous of practices. Yeah. So patience is the most rigorous of practices. So Smoothie Gate and other incidents, like on Saturday when I woke up and I was getting ready to meditate, and my neighbor was playing heavy metal at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. all these different sort of incidents, kind of new experiences I find myself in now that I stay at home a lot more. They've just been sort of like little catalysts, I suppose, for reflecting on this line from the Dhammapada. So patience is the greatest of austerities, or patience is the most rigorous of practices. And I suppose one of the reasons why I like this particular line from the Dhammapada is that I think it's an energetic paradox. When I hear the word patience, Kanti is often translated as patience or tolerance or forbearance. They seem to me like quite low energy states, yeah? So, it's sort of like you're just trying to sort of like damp down on your energy, damp down on your anger, damp down on your frustration. But the other end of that line, the most rigorous of practices, the greatest of austerities, that's got a more sort of heroic energy to it. I love the phrase rigorous practice. I find that really, really attractive. I think if I could characterize what kind of practitioner I am, I imagine I'm a kind of like to infinity and beyond kind of practitioner, like I just want to like really go for it. I think like lotuses and flowers as metaphors for growth are good and definitely very, very useful, but they are not always like very attractive to me. Yeah. So I think this line from the Dhammapada, patience is the greatest of austerities, patience is the most rigorous of practices. I think it's a very, very interesting, paradoxical teaching, and one that I find really attractive. Because I think patience, sometimes we can think that it's either something that we have or we don't have. A little bit like wisdom, we either born with it or we just don't have it. But I think that's actually a bit of a wrong view. Recently, one of my good friends, Kshantikara, got ordained, and his name means the maker of patience. Yeah, Kshanti is the Sanskrit word for patience. Kanti is the Pali word, and the word kara means holder, or in the case of his name, maker. And that's really interesting as well. That peace, patience, tolerance, forbearance is a quality that you can make, a quality that you can bring to a situation, a quality that you can cultivate. And basically, it's a practice. And it's a practice for all of us, not just Kshantikara. Like all of us can make patience. Yeah. So, I want to say something about Kshanti and the gap, because a lot of spiritual practice, in fact, I think Bhante Sangharakshita, the founder of our movement, he calls the gap between our experience and our response the battleground of spiritual life. And if we're able to cultivate this sense of patience, cultivate this sense of tolerance and forbearance, what can happen is that we create this gap between our experience of hurt or anger or frustration or discomfort or distraction, and then the response to that hurt, that frustration, the response to that irritation or distraction. If there isn't a gap between our experience of uncomfortable events and our response, usually what happens is that we respond or react in a sort of habitual knee-jerk negative patterning. Like I noticed when I was going on my walks, sometimes I would take a walk through the park, and occasionally there would be this bench out on the side of the park where a group of sort of young people in hoodies and low jeans would gather. And my it's not something like really terrible, but I imagine other people probably might have this response as well. But this kind of like internal tutting, like internal kind of righteous indignation. Oh, they shouldn't be doing that. That's not the way to do social distancing, or, sort of like judgmental about other people. We kind of get into these knee-jerk, habitual, slightly complaining modes in our head. But if we are able to cultivate patience and open up that gap between our experience and our response, something much more creative can come into being. So on Saturday, when I was meditating and I could hear this kind of like heavy metal music starting up, I actually meditate in like a cupboard in my flat, and I could hear this music, and then I just realized, oh, the only reason why I'm distracted by the music is because I'm not particularly concentrated in my own meditation practice. I was distracted already, if you see what I mean. And then I just realized that all I need to do is just to come back to my direct experience. And when I came back to my direct experience, any sense of irritation or how long is this music going to go on for just dropped away. Yeah, it didn't matter in that moment. Any tension with between my experience and the future seemed to drop away. So I think the two things that we really, really need if we want to cultivate patience is really awareness of ourselves, and then a sense of other people. So really mindfulness and metta. If we can become aware of what's driving us, and probably for most of us right now, it will be some sort of anxiety. Whether you're somebody who's suddenly got lots and lots and lots of work to do, or somebody who's suddenly got no work at all to do. I think for most of us, this is probably quite an anxious time for many, many reasons. If we can get in touch with that sense of like discomfort, this not knowing, and if we can also, I think particularly, not just with other people, also with ourselves, cultivate the sense of loving kindness. In Buddhism, we call it metta. Yeah, so a sense of loving kindness, a sense of empathy, a sense of other regardingness, and to be open to maybe what might be driving other people. We will then open up this gap where we can respond creatively. We can sort of understand what drives the other person. So like in the case of my housemate, they're probably just quite hungry after their little run in the park. And they wanted their lunch, they wanted their smoothie. Yeah. I think probably that's all I'll say as some context for our practice tonight. What I'd like us to do now is just to do a little bit of awareness practice and a little bit of metta practice. So if you know how to sit in meditation, if you've got some meditation gear with you, I just encourage you to sit in your meditation posture. If you don't already know how to meditate, if this is your first time to meditation, don't worry at all. I'll be leading us through the meditation. But what you'll probably need to do right now is to see if you can get into a position where you're upright. So if you're sitting on your sofa, maybe you might just want to come away from the back of the sofa so you're not sort of slumped and slouched in your posture. If you're sitting on a dining room chair, maybe again just sit away from the back. Maybe come a little bit forwards in your seat so that you can have your feet flat on the floor. And your back is upright. And we'll be sitting for about 20 minutes or so, and I'll just lead us through some awareness practice and some loving kindness practice. Okay. So getting ready. Seb is helpfully turning down the lights here so that we'll also be meditating along with you. And you can close your eyes. I'll just talk us through the meditation. So see if you can just notice the shape that you're making in space. Notice if your back is upright. Notice how you've placed your arms and your hands, your legs and your feet. And then we'll spend some time cultivating a bit more specific awareness of what it's like to be in this shape. So can you notice how you're holding your face? And perhaps allowing the face to go a little bit soft, relaxing around the eyes and around the mouth. Can you see what it feels like in your neck and your shoulders? And you might be able to just encourage your shoulders to relax down your back, away from your ears. Now feel into your back. Feel down the spine and the sides of the spine. And particularly if there are areas that feel sore or uncomfortable or tight, just bring your awareness to it. A kindly, soothing, patient awareness. seeing what it feels like in your arms and your hands. We spend our days, even if you've got quite a spacious day, we spend our day using our hands, moving our fingers all the time. Just see what it's like for the fingers to be still. Now take your attention into your legs, into your feet. Feel your bottom on the chair or the cushion. And also take your attention into the feet and the soles of the feet. Now broaden out your attention to include the whole of the body again. See if you can notice the shape you're making in space and what that expresses. What sort of attitude are you expressing with your posture? Now let's spend some time attending to our heart. So not your physical heart, but your sort of emotional center. You might want to spend a moment or two recollecting the sort of day you've had, the different interactions you've had, the different experiences you've had that have brought you up to this moment. And attend to your heart. Notice the quality of energy that's driving you. And see if you can meet that with kindly awareness. However you are. Whether you're happy or if you're sad, if you're frustrated or calm. Now you might want to spend a few more moments really developing a sense of kindly attention, a sense of loving kindness towards yourself. Wishing yourself to be well and happy. To be free from suffering and to make progress. Now bring to mind a good friend, someone who you already care about. And as you hold them in your mind, hold them in loving awareness. Your friend might be doing well or facing challenges. See if you can imagine supporting them, wishing them well. Now letting go of your friend and perhaps bringing to mind someone who you find difficult. Let this be quite a recent difficulty. Maybe a misunderstanding at work, or people who you feel judgmental about. Or just somebody who you live with who irritated you. These things happen. And can you do that thing of being aware of what drives you and being open to them, empathizing with them? Can you imagine being friendly towards them? Can you imagine listening to their views, to their stories with an open heart? Now see if you can bring to mind yourself, your good friend, the difficult person. And just 3 people in this wide world. There are many people in this crisis, in this world. All of us have our own unique experiences. Can you bring a sense of imaginative openness, solidarity, all human beings have hopes and dreams, fears and joys and sorrows. There are stories of love and hope, and stories of devastation, sadness, gain and loss. Just bringing loving awareness to all of that. Now, bringing the meditation to a close, just sitting completely still, not dropping any effort to cultivate loving kindness. Perhaps even coming back to your own body, the cushions, the chair. Noticing the effect of your efforts. So, how was that? How is that for you? If you have any questions about what I've said in the first half or what the meditation that we did, do feel free to ask questions just through the chat box on the left.
I've got a question for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you use a lot of sort of your imagination? Do you use sort of images in your meditation, or is it more of a sort of word-based experience?
Yeah. So the question is, do I use a lot of imagery in my meditation, particularly loving kindness meditation, or is it a word-based thing? So that last meditation was a little bit of a mix of the two. Traditionally, the loving kindness practice is taught to beginners by using phrases. So, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering, may I make progress. And then when you bring other people to mind, may you be well, may you be happy, May you be free from suffering. May you make progress. And I think for myself, I tend to use a mixture of using words and phrases and also imagery. I think different things work at different times, particularly when I'm feeling distracted, when I just feel like my concentration isn't particularly stable. I tend to use words and the phrases. I find them like a very, very good structure. I think if I'm already distracted and then I use imagery, I just tend to like think about stuff, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I think also maybe there's another sort of method. I spend quite a lot of time just cultivating body awareness. So maybe I think of metta very much like a radiation practice. Like I sort of feel like I'm radiating outwards from my heart. And then sometimes I can have this experience where the edges of my body dissolve a little bit, or they sort of do that movement. This kind of like bigger movement. I feel bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So Esther says that was great, and so she says sometimes irritation is hard to transform. Do you have any tips?
I think there's a reason why I've been reflecting on patience. So the question is, irritation is hard to transform. Do I have any tips? Well, I mean, I do quite a lot of these reflection practices. I think traditionally in Buddhism, there are two things that one does. You know, one tries to firstly calm. So it's the traditional word is shamatha practice. You try to do quite a lot of like calming practices. So you notice the irritation and you sort of like try to calm the irritation so that you don't act from a place of being irritated. And then, but shamatha is not enough, you know, shamatha is not enough. You actually do need to also spend some time seeing through that irritation, seeing to the sort of root cause of why you're hooked, you know, by the irritation. So I think like there's a place for both. You kind of need to do both practices. Like say that thing of, like somebody making a smoothie when they know you're on a conference call. I think there's something about, well, for me anyway, I notice that what drives me is the sense of what I'm doing is important. I'm important, like this me at the center of the world. The world revolves around me, don't you know? And I think all of us have this. I think all of us have this sort of innate sense of the world revolves around you. It's kind of like it's like a root wrong view. It's kind of a very, very deep view that we have, and it's just not true. So you just do have to do practices that sort of counter that. If you sort of pick up any Buddhist book, like say the Dhammapada, I often just pick up the Dhammapada, a book like this, and it's got verses on the inside, and I just sort of read one or two, and they can just be like really, really helpful things. You might then find a verse that helps you, and then that you can then memorize, and then in your moments of irritation, they might save you from just doing the wrong thing. Although recently somebody pointed out to me that if you only ever pick up a sort of spiritual text and just open and read, you only ever read the middle. Do you know that? You won't get to like, you never read the verses at the end or at the start. So, yeah.
So Magnus Backlund has said, I find it difficult to calm down when I'm already upset.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking for advice around that.
Yeah, I can definitely empathize with that. So the question is, how do you calm down when you're already upset? I think, you know, sometimes it is really, really difficult to think, oh, I'm just going to, I don't know, do shamatha practice or vipassana practice when emotions are really, really sort of agitated, and we're already in a very, very agitated state. So it might work if you're not very, very agitated. Although sometimes, sometimes it's just like the agitation is so much, you kind of like almost have to like snap out of it, I think. The main thing that I would sort of encourage you to look into is just to have like a positive distraction, sort of like shift your energy to something else that is unharmful. Yeah, so I noticed I was quite agitated this afternoon, and Seb at the start asked me whether this was my first live stream, and I said, no, it's not. It's actually my second. But I was still really quite nervous, and I couldn't get down to like thinking about what I wanted to communicate in this talk. And I was getting really agitated. I actually was at a study group, and I sort of felt slightly, oh, I don't really want to be at the study group because really I want to be like thinking about my talk. And even after the study group finished, I still couldn't think about my talk because I was quite agitated. So what I did was I actually just got into the bath. That felt like a very sort of positive kind of distraction. In a way, I knew I didn't really need a bath. I've already had a few showers today. But it just felt like an unharmful distraction. And I could have thought, I'm just going to like watch Netflix. Actually, I don't even have a Netflix account, but I do love RuPaul's Drag Race, as some of you know. I could have just like put that on, but that wouldn't have been such a positive distraction. Actually, just to say something about positive distraction, I think particularly positive distractions that are body-based can be very, very helpful. So something that sort of like gets you out of your head in a way. That's why doing things like having a hot shower or a warm bath, they're quite sensuous things, and that can just sort of draw you out of your head into a different experience. It's just like a real practical tip, really. And then you can start to calm down. Once you're calm, you can do metta practice, awareness practice.
So another question from Alessandra Morelli. When dealing with a difficult person, how to stay calm in the moment they are saying or doing something that triggers irritation and anger in us?
Yeah, it's really hard. So the question is like, what do you do in the moment when the difficult person triggers anger or irritation in us? I think that's really, really hard, I think it's really just practice. Actually, there's some very, very traditional images of this that, the traditional advice is to be like a block of wood. Like, in the moment, if you think, oh, it's not going to be helpful to meet their energy, you can just be like a block of wood. So you just sort of, almost like you're saying to yourself, don't go there. Don't go there, Danayutta. Don't shout back. Just talking about this person who I live with. They were watching these. They really love these daily briefings from the government. So every day at 5 o'clock, the TV goes on. And one day I was trying to like look at an Excel spreadsheet. And then I slammed the door. I don't think I slammed the door. I just sort of allowed the door to slam, just to like. Anyway, so I did really apologize for that. And then, so sometimes you just have to think, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to slam that door. I am not going to allow myself to do that. Sometimes I think of my teachers, and I imagine how they would feel. I imagine their response if they saw me acting out, so that can stop me as well. And then also sometimes, particularly if you do have enough awareness, if you do have enough metta, that you really know that you wish the person well, and that you're open towards them, you love them. Sometimes you can just meet their energy. Recently, my parents and I had quite a robust conversation about fake news. They love. We're in a few WhatsApp groups, my family and I. My parents seem to like send out a lot of fake news. So like COVID-19 is like, I don't know, like fake news everywhere. We had quite a robust conversation about fake news. But in a way, like I don't think I could have had that conversation without, it wouldn't have been like a positive conversation without awareness and love.
So we've got not directly related to practices today, but Hera Akut is curious about what your name means. What is Danayutta?
Oh yeah. Well, it's sort of related because I mentioned Kshantikara. Yeah. So the question is, what does my name mean? Thanks for asking me. It's quite bits of my name is quite unusual. So in our Buddhist order, when you get ordained, your preceptor, so you ask somebody to ordain you, and that's your preceptor, and your preceptor gives you a name. It's a very, very ancient practice. You find this throughout the Buddhist world. In Buddhist countries, that's what people would get when they become a Buddhist. They get a new name, all the way back to the time of the Buddhists. It's a very, very traditional thing to get a new name. And my preceptor named me Danayutta. I'll just say it again, Danayutta, because often people get it wrong. It's Danayutta and it rhymes with guitar. And Dana means something like generosity, giving. And Yutta means something like bonded with, connected to, comprised of. So my name means she who is bonded with generosity. When I asked my preceptor about it, she said comprised of more, but the official translation is she who's bonded with generosity. Yeah, names are important. Maybe one more.
I think we're done.
Okay.
Lots of people saying, just very, very grateful, saying thank you so much for taking the time to.
Yeah. So I just want to say one more thing about patience and forbearance, and then we'll do a little meditation to finish. And what I basically wanted to say, and maybe this connects to my name as well, is that in traditional Buddhism, these qualities of generosity, like dana in my name, or kshanti, or kanti, which is what we've been looking at, patience, together with other qualities of ethics and energy and meditative concentration and wisdom. These are qualities that we're meant to sort of cultivate to the highest degree. So I just wanted to end by saying that patience has a transcendental quality. And when it's sort of practiced to that pitch of transcendence, it's a kind of tolerance of the absolute groundlessness of things. Yeah. So it's not that you're just trying to be, like patient with your neighbor who plays loud music, or your housemates that do things and you don't want them to do things. You're trying to be sort of incredibly open to the fact that things change all the time, open to impermanence, open to insubstantiality, open to joy and suffering, that there's no firm ground anywhere. I just think that's a very, very important aspect of patience as well. So it's not just with small things. You practice the small things so that you're completely equanimous in face of the big things. So with that in mind, let's just get back into our meditation position just for a short 4 or 5 minute sit, just to close this evening. So come back to sitting upright, to sitting tall. So the thing about names, Buddhist names, is that they're trying to call forth qualities, transcendental qualities. So you might find this helpful, you might not, but you might want to imagine what it would be like to be the maker of patience, what it would be like to be fully, completely Kantikara, the holder of patience, the maker of patience, the person who's rigorously practiced in tolerance and forbearance. What would that be like? What would it be like to be a Buddha? Wise and kind, utterly aware, completely open and loving. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us wherever you are, whether you're just down the road from the London Buddhist Center or whether you're in Somerset or in St. Petersburg. Yeah, so that's really, really good. And it's a delight actually to be able to welcome you to the London Buddhist Center, even as the Buddhist Center is actually closed. So I just want to say thank you very, very much if you've taken out a standing order recently or you've been giving to us for a long time. It really, really does mean quite a lot to us. The Buddhist Center is mainly run through donations, so people come to the center when the center is open and just put money in the bowl for the classes. The bulk of our classes are free classes, and I just encourage people to join in this culture of giving and generosity and abundance. So thank you if you've already been participating in that. If not, and if you would like to give to us, one-off donations are great, and also regular donations are even better because it just helps us plan a little bit for the future. So if you're able to do that, there's a little link in our description, and also there's probably one in the chat box as well. And you can make a donation, and that'll be really gratefully received. Also, if you're not able to give, that's absolutely fine. We just really appreciate you joining us. So that's all for tonight, and thank you very much. So for the next while, whilst the Buddhist Center is closed, we're going to be having classes every single weeknight. So this might be news to you. We're just starting it this week. So tomorrow night, Maitra Bandhu is going to be teaching. Thursday night, Jnana Vajra and Maitra Bandhu is going to be teaching. And on Friday night, Surya Gupta is going to be teaching. So hopefully I'll see you again. If not, maybe I'll even see you in person. Okay, bye-bye.